Hi guys, and welcome to Cooking with Fat Julie, where I share tips and tricks in the kitchen as well as quick and easy recipes. Today I'm going to show you how to make shortbread cookies and then how to turn those into thumbprint cookies. I've chosen this cookie because it's so simple. It only has 4 ingredients and is really easy to measure. So I've added 2 cups of softened butter to my bowl. I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then I'm just going to beat that up until it's nice and fluffy. And there we go. That's what this should look like. Now I'm going to add 4 cups of flour. You might not want to add that all at once because it will become a little bit more difficult to stir. But just like my other cookies, you can just throw your hands inside there and mix it with your hands. Just make sure you've washed them first. So I'm going to add about half of my flour and I'm going to start mixing that in. While I'm doing this, I just want to give a shout out to all of the students at the University of British Columbia who have been watching my videos and trying out my recipes. Thanks so much, guys, and I would love to see pictures of your finished product. So I'm going to add the rest of my flour and mix that up. Like I said, if it becomes too difficult to mix with a spoon, just stick your hands in there and mix that up with your hands. So super easy, 4 ingredients. 3 of them take a 1 cup measure to measure. The other one is 2 teaspoons, but you can estimate that. And it's super easy. So I'm just gonna throw my hands in there. Make sure all that flour is mixed up. And there we go, that's what your dough should look like. It's nice and smooth, and it smells delicious. So now I'm going to roll those into a ball and show you what happens next. Traditionally, shortbread cookies are cut either into rectangles or squares. Then you can put icing or chocolate or sprinkles or whatever on top. You can even use a cookie cutter. But I like this recipe because it's super easy and I can roll them into balls and they're going to hold their shape. So I'm going to turn them into thumbprint cookies. Now they're called thumbprint cookies because you're supposed to use your thumb to press a hole into them and then fill that hole with something. Now I figured out that if I use a stick of lip balm, and in this case I've covered it in plastic wrap because I'm not done with it, and I can just take that stick of lip balm and press it into my cookie. And as you can see, I get a nice little hole. Now that cookie's going to flatten out a bit when it cooks. So this hole is actually better for keeping whatever surprise I want to put in there from spilling all over the place when it's cooking. So for this dozen cookies, I'm going to make a little hole inside them. And these I'm going to fill with jam. Now you can fill your cookies with whatever you want. Sometimes whatever that is can go in the oven, so the jam can go into the cookie and then I put it in the oven to bake. I'm also going to fill some with chocolate and that cannot go into the oven because it's just going to turn runny and make a mess. So I'm going to fill those after they're cooked. Now in this case, because I've made a round ball, and you can do this with any thumbprint cookie, you can take your cookie and you can roll it in sugar, colored sugar, sprinkles, crushed nuts, really anything you want. And as for what you put inside it, I mean, again, you can put anything you want inside it. A maraschino cherry, some nuts, candy, a gumdrop, in this case something Christmas colored because it's almost Christmas, really anything you want. If your cookies deform a little bit while you're putting the hole in them, you can just kind of put them back together. Now my son reminded me that I can use a butter knife and I can take my thumbprint cookie and turn it into a flower just by putting a couple of little slits in it like that. Now you can use 4 or 5, whatever you want, and that's going to open up when it cooks and it's going to look like a flower. Don't fill them too full because, like I said, the cookies are going to spread out a little bit, and if you fill them too full, whatever it is that you put inside, jam or whatever filling, is really going to run all over the place. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of jam, keeping in mind that my cookies are going to separate. And I will show them to you once they come out of the oven. So I'm going to put my cookies in the oven for somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on them. I want them to kind of turn golden brown on the bottom, but I definitely don't want them to burn. And I like my cookies to be more chewy than crispy, so I don't want to cook them too long. And if you are like me and like your cookies to be more chewy than crispy, just add a little bit more butter than what the recipe calls for. So for my next dozen cookies, I'm still going to use my lip balm to punch a hole into them, but I'm not going to make them into flowers and I'm not going to fill them into jam. These I'm actually going to fill with chocolate, so I'm going to put my hole in them, and I'm going to make sure my hole is nice and deep and the cookies are nice and round around that hole, and then I'm going to cook them like that. Now you're not going to have a huge hole that comes out once they're cooked, but you're going to have a little bit of a hole, and I find that using the stick of lip balm really helps with a hole that is easy to fill once they've been cooked. Okay, so my next dozen cookies are ready to go in the oven. Just a fun fact, if your cookies aren't perfectly round, the only person that's going to notice is you. So relax, everything's going to be awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to microwave some white chocolate to use that as filling. You can add a little bit of butter if you want. That will help to make it a little bit more smooth. The trick with microwaving chocolate is that you need to stop it every 30 seconds to stir it. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so this is what my white chocolate looks like now. I didn't need to add any butter because it's quite smooth. So I've waited for my cookies to cool down, and I'm just going to take my chocolate and pour it into what's left of the hole. Now, since it's the holiday season, you can add color to your white chocolate. I've even drizzled it on top with different colors. But at this point, I'm just going to add my white chocolate. Now, when it starts to cool off, it's going to get a little bit harder to pour, so you can just microwave it a little bit more. But remember, don't microwave it for more than 30 seconds at a time without stirring it, otherwise it's very possible that your chocolate will burn. So there are a dozen thumbprint cookies filled with white chocolate. I'm going to do the same with some milk chocolate, and I'll show you what the flour cookies look like. Here's what the flour cookies look like. And here are my cookies with the milk chocolate in the hole. Here's the 3 different kinds of cookies that I made, all in one plate. If you want to get all fancy right before you serve them, you can sprinkle some icing sugar on top. And have fun. Bon appétit!